And my mic is not on. So we're off to a great start.
Amar Hussein, Here.
Just say here.
Jay Pika,
Here.
Kent Robbins,
Here.
Ray Huber,
Here.
Tom Vonhoff,
Here.
Donna Henches,
Here.
Lee Watson.
Here.
Also present this evening at the end of the podium is Brad Davis, our planning manager. Next to him is our deputy clerk to the board, Rachel Nosbush. I know that Marty Schmidt, our zoning administrator, is here as well. Standing at the podium is Greg Wagner, our principal planner, and sitting next to Marty Schmidt is, let's see if I have it. Nathan Hall, Nathan, our associate planner. And sitting on the other end of the chamber this evening, I see our County Commissioner Tom Wolf as well. Good evening, Tom. Now I will go to the approval of the minutes. I'm sorry for starting out of order. The approval of our January 9th Planning Advisory Commission meeting minutes. All the commissioners have been sent a copy of the minutes to review them. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the minutes as printed? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to, oh, go ahead, sir.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Henches. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Huber. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for vote. All in favor of approving the minutes, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. The minutes are approved. Our next item is our consent agenda. And originally on our consent agenda this evening, there was two items that were on there. One item, the number 3-2, has been pulled from the, or I'm sorry, hold on. The Smolgard Oats rezoning has been pulled from the agenda and will be continued. So the Planning Advisory Commission meeting minutes this evening will only include the Me Estates rezoning. So all items listed on the Planning Commission are considered to be on the consent agenda, considered by the Planning Commission to be routine, will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a Planning Commission board member or a member of the public so request, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda to be considered separately. So the other item on the consent agenda is a request, is number 20-22. 087, a request to approve the rezoning of 10 acres from rural residential reserve, RR1, to rural residential single-family, RR2, a preliminary plat and final plat of Me Estates consisting of 2 lots on 10 acres. Joseph A. and Cynthia A. Me are the applicant and property owners in Section 14 of Spring Lake Township. That is the only item that will be on the consent agenda this evening. Would anyone like to have that removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration? Okay. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which will also approve this item before us.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion by Commissioner Watson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robbins. Discussion? Hearing none. I will call for a vote. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Our next item, which is our first public hearing, is a request to approve a comprehensive plan amendment to re-guide 2.85 acre parcel in Sand Creek Township from industrial to commercial on the 2040 planned land use map. Camping World Holdings Incorporated applicant and FRHP Ford LLC property owner in Section 4 of Sand Creek Township. And Nathan Hall, our associate planner, will be making the presentation.
Mr. Chair, I need to recuse myself from this item.
Okay.
I'll come back and step out.
Make a note in the minutes that Commissioner Huber is recusing himself and removing himself from the chambers on this item.
Mr. Chair, this is a public hearing?
Yes. This is a public hearing, and the public hearing is open.
Thank
Good evening, Mr. Chair. As we discussed at the January public hearing, when the CUP request was heard, Camping World is proposing a significant expansion to their facility in Sand Creek Township. The parcel in question here, it's a 2.85 acre parcel, is located in the southernmost lot of Camping World's 4 parcels. The parcel has access to Greystone Lane to the west, and then it also has, it is along the railroad right-of-way here and has visibility from Highway 169. The applicant would like to re-guide the property from industrial to commercial so that the 2.85 acres can be rezoned to the C1 zoning district. That would allow their existing sales lots to be expanded further to the south. Prior to taking action on a plan amendment, the Metropolitan Council requires the county to notify the adjacent and affected jurisdictions and allow them up to 60 days to review the request. For this request, the notification was distributed to 6 adjacent and affected jurisdictions that included Sand Creek Township, neighboring Louisville Township, the school district, the watershed district, MnDOT, and the city of Jordan. And none of those jurisdictions had specific comments regarding the request, and none have opposed the request. County staff is supportive of this planned land use amendment, as it is consistent with the adjacent properties that also have visibility from Highway 169. And if this is supported by the Planning Commission and the County Board, the next step in the process is that the amendment will be sent to the Metropolitan Council for administrative review. And finally, then, if it is approved by the Metropolitan Council, the amendment will be brought back to the County Board for final consideration, and the amendment will take full effect. And that is my short presentation, Mr. Chair. I'll certainly stand by
Thank you,
for any
Mr. Hall.
questions.
Commissioner,
Will you say again, I've read the report, but will you say again what use the land will have now with the change in zoning? What will happen on the land as a result of the change in zoning?
Yep. Mr. Chair, Commissioner Robbins, the request is for the property to be re-guided to commercial, which will allow the applicant to then rezone to the C1 district. And the use that the applicant would then conduct on the property is RV sales.
Excuse me, RV sales?
RV sales, correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
any further questions from the board? I did note, Mr. Hall, that there were 6 jurisdictions that were asked and submitted comments that they would not be effective or would support this comprehensive plan change. Is that correct?
Correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Hall. If anyone would like to make comment on this application, they can come up to the podium. There's a sign-up sheet that you can write down your name and address on. Seeing as no one is making a motion to move up to the podium, I will entertain a motion at this time to close the public hearing. So moved. Motion by Commissioner Robbins. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Henches. All in favor, vote aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion the motion passes to close the public hearing. At this time, I will entertain a motion or action on this item before us.
Mr. Chairman, I support this land use plan amendment and further recommend advancing the request to the county board for preliminary action, noting the township has made approval as well.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Watson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robbins. Is there further discussion on this motion before us at this time before I call for a vote? Hearing none, at this time, I'll call for vote. All in favor of this motion, vote aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Making notation that Commissioner Huber was out of the room and did not vote. So that has been approved. If you're here for the Camping World Comprehensive Plan. Our next item, and please make notation that Commissioner Huber has returned to the chambers and is now with us again. Our next item is a request to approve an interim use permit to operate a home extended business. Keith Deutsch is the applicant and Judith Deutsch, M. Deutsch Trust property owner in section 27 of the town of Helena Township. And I see that Mr. Wagner will be making our staff report. Good evening, Mr. Wagner.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. On the screen is a site location map of the property, which is located at 26115 Helena Boulevard. It's a 10-acre, just over a 10-acre parcel that's located north of the city of New Prague. So the city of New Prague is outlined here in the dark gray line. Just to the north is Helena Township. Bordering the property on the west side is Helena Boulevard, which is State Highway 21. And just to the north is 260th Street West, which is County Road 2. So the Deutsch Family Trust property consists of this parcel outlined in red, and then also has the adjacent property to the north and the parcel to the south. So when I flip over to the aerial photo, you can see the existing homestead here, the house, and then there's two accessory buildings. And then to the north is largely agricultural land, again, owned by the Deutsch family. To the south, they also own this property. And to the east of the site is a large DNR natural environment lake. So the property is very much buffered from any adjacent land uses, and they are the surrounding property owner to the north and south. City of New Prague, it's under this area here. You can see some development from the city of New Prague. But the request before you tonight is an interim use permit for a home extended business. So the Scott County zoning ordinance allows home extended businesses generally on properties that are 10 acres or larger. And what home extended business is when the property owner lives in the home and then they would like to operate a small business out of an accessory building on the property. So right now, as I said, there's two accessory buildings in the existing home. The applicant, Keith Deutsch, would like to convert the easternmost building into an electric motorbike repair facility. And I'll have him come up here in a second just to give you a little better explanation of what he's going to do in the building. But what I would like to do is just really quickly go over our standards. So with a home business, main things are you're allowed one non-resident employee. Any vehicles or equipment associated with the business must be stored within the structure, so there's no outside storage allowed. They have to bring the building up to building code, also deal with septic related issues to make sure if there's water usage in the building, that is properly handled. This is a site survey showing, again, the building here. It exceeds the 150-foot setback to the DNR Natural Environment Lake. It meets all other setbacks. And it has driveway access out to State Highway 21. This is the building plan of the existing structure, so I'll just zoom in so you can see the floor plan a little better on what the applicant wants to do. So the applicant is proposing to convert the building from ag personal storage to the business use. Would have a showroom in the front, office area, restroom, and then mechanical, and the north end would be the service center. So his main focus at this point with the business is to sell and service electric motorbikes. So this is how he proposes to convert the building to the business use. The applicant had reached out to county zoning staff as well as the county building department last spring and summer. So he was informed on what building code requirements there would be to bring this building up to commercial code. So he's been provided with that information, and upon approval of this application by the county board, he would need to apply for building permits, and he's aware of what permits those would be. Additionally, he has been in communication with County Environmental Services pertaining to wastewater. If there are floor drains in the building, Those floor drains have to go to a separate holding tank. Those cannot drain to a septic system, so he's aware of that and has communicated with Environmental Services on that. The other good thing here that we kind of had some communication with the city of New Prague, this is outside the city's jurisdiction, but the applicant initially reached out to the city. This is in their future growth area, and what we learned through this review process is that during 2023, the city will be going through their comprehensive plan process. Right now, they have the Deutsch family property guided for residential, but talking to their community development director, Ken Ondich, one of the things that they're looking at due to this large wetland complex, they have residential down here, but it's going to be difficult to extend residential around this DNR natural environment lake. So one of the things that they've actually been talking to Mr. Deutsch about is possibly relooking at this area as a future commercial area, which upon annexation would potentially help him expand and do other things with the property. So I talked with Ken from the city of New Prague, and it sounds like they had a very positive conversation with the applicants about that. But that would be in the future upon annexation into the city. So county staff has reviewed this application. The applicant has put together a very detailed letter and application narrative explaining how he's complying with our home business regulations. And the last thing I wanted to point out is that he did meet with Helena Township on January 12th, and the township did recommend approval of the request. We also sent this to MnDOT because that is a state highway. MnDOT said at this point the traffic level proposed would not trigger any improvements on their end, so they had no issues with the request. But I think at this time I'll have Keith maybe come up and just give you a slightly better overview than I did of what his business is, and then he and I will stand for any questions. So.
Good evening, Mr. Deutsch.
I would not assume to do a better job than Greg. That was amazing. And I want to thank everybody for giving me the time tonight. I realize how hard it is to get this many people in a room at the same time. Greg, and I want to commend all of you. This process there's been a lot of ins and outs and a lot of things to tie up. And you have been extremely helpful. The staff here has been helpful the whole time, helping me get my head around all of the regulations and stuff that has to go into this. I really did put a lot of planning into the business side, and that's kind of what I'm here to explain who I am and a little bit about my business if you care to learn. And I think he's done a really good job of what I plan to do with the building and the land. Although if you have any more questions about that, I will absolutely answer. Again, my name's Keith Deutsch. I'm the 4th generation on the farm here, and I'll be the 2nd generation to run Ron's Cycle Shop. Dad started the business in 1978 when he moved from Colorado and started a small engine repair shop on the farm. It was called Ron's Cycle Shop then. It will be called that now. But I don't see a big future in gasoline-powered engines, so I'm moving away from that and starting to sell electric bikes, right? I kind of found a back door in. It's expensive to get into a dealership, right? That's a big thing. You need a building, you need an inventory, you need employees, you need a lot of stuff. But I can sell anything with pedals on it as a sporting goods store. So I've got myself set up as a sporting goods store. I'm a verified vendor for the state. I'm an underutilized business with the Metropolitan Council. I'm an economically and socioeconomically disadvantaged business with the state. And I've checked all the boxes and done everything I can to get myself into a place to do business with the state. Just last week, I was approved as a vendor for the state. Whenever a state agency wants to buy a fleet of electric pedal bikes, I'm the guy they buy them from, or I'm one of 10 or 15 guys they buy them from. So I've taken a lot and I've done a lot of work to get this far, and it's really all kind of happening all at once. So I'm excited to be here. I have a plan to make this work, and I'm here to answer any questions if you have them.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Roberts.
Maybe for you or Mr. Wagner, the land that's immediately to the north of that, you talked about that, what might happen to it, but not now. Can you just take me through that again? That's agricultural land, I think, right to the north of the project, isn't it?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Robbins, yeah, I mean, it's agricultural land right now. The site is, the field to the north is about half ag land, and then half part of that DNR wetland. So the city of New Prague is this gray boundary right here.
Yeah.
Their growth area extends up to the County Road 2 intersection, and actually, depending on where you go, probably parts north of that. So that's their future growth area. So right now, what I was explaining before is Ken at the city of New Prague, when Keith had reached out to the city and then to us, we started talking about, you know, what his future plans are with the business and what that property could be in the future, because he's somewhat limited under county zoning as a home business. But what the city of New Prague is going through during 2023 is their comp plan process to look at what areas could be residential, what areas could be future business, commercial, et cetera. And the indication from the city, at least early on, is that because we have State Highway 21 and County Road 2, we have two major roads. They're maybe looking at this property more as commercial. And Ken indicated that he and Keith had a good conversation about his future plans and maybe how they could utilize that site. So he's participating in that process as the city goes through it this year.
So let me just jump ahead. If that all happens, then his home business might become a regular business.
It could, yes.
Thank you.
I've got something to add if it'll please the commission. I did have a very meaningful conversation with Ken, and it just so happens that they have a bike path circumnavigating the city, and it runs right through my back 40 acres. So having a bicycle business on a bike path and knowing the mountain bike coach of the high school, it's all playing into each other and it's all working out great.
Right, thank you.
So, Mr.
Commissioner
Chair, I
Hussain.
have two questions. One is to Greg, how we define the home extended business.
Yeah,
The question.
so Mr. Chair, Commissioners, a home extended business is a business that would be run out of an accessory building. So we have two types of home businesses. We have a home occupation, which would be run out of your house. So if you're an accountant or something that just needs a home office, we can issue you a permit for a home occupation where you're using up to 25% of your house for your business use. I mean, we do have like some people
So
that,
you can you have that as part of your house or
yes,
a separate entity?
that would be part of the house. But what he is asking for is different. It's called a home extended business where it's run out of a secondary structure. So this will be run out of his accessory shed.
Okay, thank you. The second question is, in the business plan, Mr. Ditch, you have mentioned that electrical motor sport dealership. But in the business plan, you are mentioning only the electrical bikes that you want to have dealership about. So could you give
There's a gap there.
electrical motor sport, if you define electrical motor sport as an expanded definition of that, would you assure us that you will not get beyond the beyond the electrical bikes, not go into electrical vehicles?
Thank you. That's a great question, Mr. Hussain? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with everybody. Thank you. Great question. I didn't get a chance, and not that I didn't get a chance, I didn't do a good job of explaining my business plan. Right now, I'm in kind of phase 3, out of 5 phases. I'll quick overview. Phase 1 was just to open up, assume dad's name and open up Ron Cycle Shop. Phase 2 was to get verified as a vendor for the state. Phase 3 is to sell mountain bikes. Phase 4 is to convert old electric motorcycles into electric motorcycles. And phase 5 is to sell electric motorcycles. So eventually I plan to do what dad did again with electric motorcycles instead of electric bicycles, but there's a high cost of entry to get into a motorcycle dealership right away. So that is my goal and my aim, and I think by the time the building permit runs out, I'll be ready to do that. With the news I got this week with the bicycle sales, I'll be able to use that revenue to put back into improvements in the farm and in the building, move through my phases, and be selling motorcycles within 5 years.
In your business plan, would you only sell electric? Is that ultimately where you want to go?
It
with
is.
Electric motorcycles,
Great
which are
question.
mostly off-road right now, pretty much, primarily.
Great question. A lot of the stuff I will sell will be fleet vehicles for police departments, the water district, the DNR. These people ride a lot on paved trails and stuff like that. So they have specific needs that they want. But, oh geez, I lost my train of thought. I don't plan to stay with bicycles long. I kind of forgot what I was saying. I'm sorry.
Would you continue to sell the electric bicycles and the motorcycles electric motorcycles at the same time, do you think, ultimately?
So here's the kind of the great part about my business plan. I'm relying still on phase 2. Like I'm still doing small engine work,
Right.
and it's paying for phase 3 until I can make. And realistically, I'm still paying for the business. I'm 3 years into it, and I wish I was making money, but I will, and I have a plan to. But one good thing about it is that I can rely on the last phase to make money, and I plan to do everything. I don't plan to stop selling bikes when I start selling motorcycles, if that's what you're saying.
That was the question, kind of.
Sure.
But you're going to be focused on the getting away from the bikes.
I'm focused on the dealership. Thank you. Yes, I'm focused on the motorcycle dealership. That's the goal. I have to take this path to get there, I think. And so I'm focused on the bike sales now, and I think I'm maybe overemphasizing that.
Mr. Chair, I just, one question on the motorcycle future. Would there, other than just be off-road, would you see main road motorcycles down the line, like against Harley and those guys?
I love it. Good question. What I plan to specialize in phase 4 is taking old motorcycles that I know to still exist in the millions in the US, the XJ650s, the Honda CB750s from the 80s and 90s that are sitting in your grandma's garage with 4 carburetors in them that haven't run in 10 years. I can provide a kit and a set of detailed instructions for about half the cost of an off-the-shelf Zero or a 1/10 the cost of a Harley Livewire. And your average DIYer can build it in their kitchen.
Okay, interesting.
So that's kind of and I think there's a big market for that. I think I can sell one of those kits every day.
Mr. Chair?
Sure, Robbins.
I'm just curious, when you get production ramped up and everything, what kind of costs are we talking about to the consumer? I mean, if I wanted to buy one or a motorcycle bike, what kind of costs just in a neighborhood of that?
Great question. I just gave you a number. I said I can do it for half. In 2012, when I bought an FXS, it was my electric bike. It was how I got to work. It was a Zero FXS, and it was just a dirt bike with road tires, it looked like. But it would go 100 miles at 100 miles an hour, and I could plug it in when I got to work, like I could plug it in when I got to Walmart. That was a $10,000 bike. I can give you a kit and all the parts and all the instructions. Not the motorcycle itself, you have to get that, but I can do that for about $3,500 and still make profit myself.
Still make a profit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So just to understand your business, there's a service element right now with cylinders and that part of it, your
Correct.
business, right? What you want to do is evolve this into more bicycles that have electric assist on them, and then eventually morphing into doing motorcycles that were electric. Is that kind of what we're seeing here?
Exactly.
Would that be a good description of where you're at, where you're going, and where you hope to be?
Very accurate.
Is that helpful?
Very
Because-
accurate.
Okay.
I apologize that I couldn't be so concise.
No, you're doing a very good job. And are there any questions for?
So another
Commissioner
question is whether this building structure, plan that you have submitted right now, is it inclusive of your future expansion plan? Like you said, you are going from bikes to motorbikes, and maybe in future you can go to electrical vehicles, like the cars too. So the building structure that you are building, does it take care of your future expansion plans?
Thank you. Great question. What I'm evolving the business kind of as my business grows, I'm evolving this space it's working in. When I got to the shop, it was, you know, Dad's old dingy shop with dingy floors, 1978. It was hard to keep it warm in the winter. And since I've been there, I've redone the floors and I've changed, you know, I've redone the roof and I've done the insulation and I've put a heater in there and I've made it so I can keep it warm. And now my first goal is to change the front into a showroom, and then that'll service the needs of selling the pedal bikes, right? Taking the pictures and getting the people out if they need to. After I get a little bit of revenue from that, I will expand into the back of the shop. Right now, I am only utilizing half of it. So with permission to build in there, I will expand into the other half of the shed. That'll double my square footage, allowing me to put a service part in the back of that shed. And then I will have 1,600 square feet, and I think that'll be enough for a while anyways. And then I have the other building on the property as well. So there's room for expansion there too.
Any other questions? Commissioner Pika?
Oh, are you done?
I'm okay.
Okay.
I see that Minnesota DOT had warrants of any safety improvements that they're don't feel necessary, but then they talk about possibly closing the existing one. Is that, assuming there's gonna be a future frontage or backage road then, or?
I had, I think, expressed my intent at one point, if they wanted me to move my access,
I have to point here.
that I could go up to 2. But if they weren't, if MnDOT wasn't gonna ask for it, I didn't have any interest to do it.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Pika, it would be part of the city's future expansion, more likely, that there would be some sort of, you know, road coming along, a frontage road, in the future. So as things happen to the south, there would likely be some sort of frontage road system extended from the south. So ultimately, the goal would be to remove accesses from state and county roads, but until development happens south of him and he's provided some alternative, you know, he'll have his driveway.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the applicant this time from the board? Okay, thank you very much. We may have further questions. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to make comment or ask a question on this application before us, they can come up to the podium at this time. And just start your comments if you would like to make comments with your name. And there's a sign-up sheet. Not seeing anybody making any motions towards the podium at this time, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Motion by Commissioner Robbins, second by Commissioner Pika. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Public hearing is closed at this time. I'll entertain a motion or discussion on this item before us.
Mr. Chairman, couple comments. Admire the entrepreneurial spirit of Mr. Deutsch. Business plan he presented, the narrative there looks really comprehensive. And based upon that information for me, I would make a motion based on the criteria for approval listed in the staff report. I recommend approval of the home extended business interim use permit for Keith Deutsch to operate an electric motorsports dealership, noting that the township is approved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Watson. Do I have a second by Commissioner Huber? Is there any discussion at this time? Hearing none, I will entertain a vote at this time. All in favor, vote aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Your application has been approved. Congratulations. I will say, at one point in my life, my career, I was a bicycle officer, and we had electric assist bicycles. So good luck with your endeavor. It's an important thing to do. So.
And I think when you switch from the electric bicycles to the electric motorcycles, you should let us all know when the sale of the bicycles are.
10%.
Thank you. Okay, very good. Our next item is we're going to Mr. Davis, our planning manager update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since our last meeting, 2 items went to the county board for final action based on your recommendations on January 17th. The county board did approve the rezone preliminary and final plat of Johnson Estates.
I didn't know him.
And so that created 2 lots on about 10 acres of land in Section 28 of Spring Lake Township. Last week, the board did approve the interim use permit to operate a sand and gravel mine. Martin Marietta Materials was the applicant, and that will take place in Section 16 of Louisville Township. So those are the 2 items that the board has taken action on. Coming up next week on February 21st, the county board will be conducting a public hearing at 10 a.m. on the Renaissance Festival's requested amendment to their conditional use permit. So that will take place, and then the board will decide to take action on that day or continue that if they believe they need additional information before taking action.
Mr. Chair, could I, and we've said this before, but I'm just going to confirm again, that's a county board item, we will not see that. Is that
That is correct. That's going right to the county board.
right? Thank you.
That's it. And so after we adjourn, we will go into a workshop setting next door. We would like to discuss the environmental review process with you. And for some, it may be a refresher. For others, it might be some new information.
Okay, great, very good. Any questions? Okay, very good. So our next item is our environmental review workshop, which as Mr. Davis had pointed out, is going to be in the adjacent room there. I will look for a motion to adjourn at this point.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Robbins, second by Commissioner Pika. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned, and we'll be moving over to this meeting over here.
So, he was,